Hey YouTube, what's going on? Funko Agent here, and I'm coming with a new video of a topic discussion with the new trailer of Spider-Man Far From Home coming out. I decided to do a villain topic discussion on Spider-Man. Like I said, Spider-Man is my favorite Marvel superhero of all time. I watched the cartoons when I was a kid, and he's just my favorite of all time. So with the new trailer, we saw a couple of scenes with the new villains. There was a lot of people that were thinking it was like Sandman and Hydra Man, when in actuality it was the Elementals, something new, something old that not really people know about. So I figured I'd just do a couple of pop figures that we have as spider villains, and maybe a couple other ones that we hopefully will find and see in the near future, as well as, you know, talking about them and knowing what they are and who they are, and it would be a nice sense to know like the villain side of it. So without further ado, I'm going to start out with a couple of my favorite villains here and talk about them. So the first thing that we have here is Rhino, and everyone know who Rhino is. He appeared in Spider-Man Amazing 2 with Andrew Garfield. That one was like he had a robotic suit. When in the Marvel universe, he wears a suit himself. So, obviously Marvel has so many different universes and so many different storylines. So, correct me if I'm wrong, or if you know another version, comment down below and let me know. It's always nice to have a new discussion about which your favorite villain storyline is. So this is the one I grew up with. So the guy's name is, I believe is Alexei Savage. I don't know exactly what nationality that is, but he volunteered to participate in a experiment that bonds a super polymer to his skin. So they used the skin here, and you can see there that's how he gets his super strength and super speed to become the Rhino. He's more brawn than brains, so like a lot of times Spider-Man outsmarts him, and he usually just, he's like the dimwit villain that just uses his strength. So mostly like side events with video games, he's robbing the bank and you have to just go stop him. So he's not really like a huge villain in the Spider-Man universe, but he is part of the Spider-Man universe, so he's just another cool villain that we all know and share, that he likes to just ram into things and uses brute strength. But as you know, Spider-Man just uses his wit and outsmarts him and defeats him after that. So he only appeared in Spider-Man Amazing 2. Luckily, I did get the Marvel Corp edition of the pop figure, so this is his pop. And so it's a really nice piece. The second one I'm going to go with is the Prowler. So obviously with the new Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, they have their own version of what the Prowler is. I'm going to go with my old one that I grew up with. So it was with I'm going to use the Fox Kids Amazing Spider-Man series, the 1990s. So the original guy was Hobie Brown. He was a small-time engineer who just, used his skills to steal for personal profit. He works with a gang called Iceberg, and at that point, the gang actually turned on him. So he wanted to get revenge, so the Kingpin offered him a suit to do that. Once he got his revenge, the Kingpin actually used him as a weapon to steal for his own doing, which then eventually Spider-Man helped him and take him out. So obviously with him, he's equipped with gauntlets. He's really quick and speedy. He's got gas pellets and small explosions, so he's like a small-time thief guy with gadgets. But with the Spider-Man verse that he appeared in, it was really quite cool how they implemented on his universe. So the movie already came out, so if you haven't watched it, I'm going to spoil something, so you could skip with a minute or two of this video, otherwise you've been warned. So obviously with the new Spider-Man universe, everyone's watched it and it's been a while, but Miles Morales finds out that the Prowler is actually his uncle that's working for the Kingpin. And how ironically cool is that, he ends up dying, and, every Spider-Man takes the initiation by having his uncle killed or dies. So I thought that was pretty cool how they twisted that to where, with him dying, he ends up being serious and turns into the Spider-Man in his universe. So, but yeah, that was something cool. But yeah, the Prowler is not really mentioned a lot, not very popular. I figured not many people will know who the Prowler is unless they watched Spider-Man Into the Universe or read the comics. He's not very, commonly known, and he's just someone that they added to the Spider-Verse, which is pretty cool, to be honest. So this is his suit. Obviously, if you remember the old version, he's more of a green and purple with some silver on him. So like the cape, I believe, was green, but here they have it all purple and black. So, but yeah, this one's a nice piece, and I enjoyed him. The next villain we're going to go to is the Vulture. So he was appeared in, obviously, Homecoming as Michael Keaton. And he is, his name is Adrian Toomes. He's let's see here, he's an electronics engineer who once had a business with a guy named Gregory Belson. But he uses his wit and his mind to create these inventions, such as the Vulture suit, to work on his construction company. So it turns to find out that his business partner was embezzling money, which then at that point turned him down and, left his job and took everything from him. So in doing so, he uses this Vulture suit to ruin his life and then turn to a life of crime. Just stealing, snagging, selling, like the arms dealer. So it's almost similar to the Homecoming movie. Obviously, when the Avengers attacked, his company tried to, salvage and clean up the city, but then they didn't use him. So he ends up using his skill to steal the weapons and stuff like that and sell them in the black market. So he's very popular in the Spider-Man universe. He's been really used a lot because, with his flight, he had an advantage over Spider-Man. But he's always ended up, capturing him and taking him out. So this is his pop. So originally the pop is the movie version, which is really nice. It's really realistic. And the old version of the comics, it was more of a feathery suit. Like he was actually in a bird suit, which is really crazy, but that one's different. So with this, he had, missiles and guns, and he had propulsion systems and like these talons that helped him move around. So that was his weapons of choice, and he was just, a small-time thug who, went for profit. So that's the Vulture. Another popular common villain that we all know is Dr. Octopus. First live-action movie was Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire. So his real name is Otto Octavius, which is really funny, and he is actually a nuclear physicist. He uses the metal arms to work on his experiments for nuclear fusion. Unfortunately, an accident happened, which they basically pretty much did accurately depict it in Spider-Man 2, where an accident happened and the arms and his metal arms fused into his spinal stem. So that way he could use it without using a chip. Now he uses his mind. At that point, with enrage and fury, he ends up going to life of crime, stealing to continue his experiments, as well as other head honchos like gang members hiring him for scientific experiments. So like the Kingpin usually hires him for a couple times. He was a very admirable foe for Spider-Man. With his four metal arms, they were really hard to get close to. But yeah, he's really used up a lot in the Spider-Man universe and uses a lot of his wit, and he's actually smart just as Spider-Man, so Spider-Man he had to be extra smart and extra witty to go around him. But yeah, he was very popular. I liked him. Everybody knows who Doc Octopus is, and so this is him. Another one that we're looking at is the Lizard. So he first appeared in the Amazing Spider-Man, the first one with Andrew Garfield, so it was kind of like a reboot. I really don't like talking about the Amazing Spider-Man. I just didn't like that one. It's just not good. So with the bio, he's more of a common ally as well as a foe at the same sort of sense. So his name is Dr. Kurt Connors. He's a scientist who had one arm. Half of his other limb is gone, and he studies genetics. So he had the idea of using lizard DNA to infuse into humans because of, how lizards are able to regenerate their limbs. He thought he could use the same concept to grow back his arm. He successfully did, but however, the DNA fused into his human genome transforms him into the lizard. So he's more of a savagely creature beast. So he doesn't have his mind. He's just super savage. Luckily, Peter Parker knows Kurt Connors, so that he tries to help him more than defeat him. He does get cured, but then sort of sometimes when it's like the Hulk type of thing, like if he loses control or his anger, he'll change into the lizard. So at first one time when he turned into the first lizard, he thought that humanity would be best fit if everyone was just like him, which Spider-Man stops him. Actually, in the cartoon version, there's a Secret Wars where Spider-Man actually asks him for his help and uses him as an ally. So he's not really much of a villain, but more of a, first turned into a villain because he wasn't sure what's going on, but then Spider-Man helps him and then ends up being a great ally to him. So it was really cool. So here's his pop. I like how he has his pop. So he's got the nice white lab coat, the purple shorts like always, and the green scaly skin. This is pretty cool. I do like him, and I'm glad that they made him as a pop figure. Another famously common villain that we all know is the Green Goblin. So obviously everybody knows who he is. It's Norman Osborn, guy who owns Oscorp, ends up creating a secret formula, which then he uses on himself and ends up being the Green Goblin and goes into life of crime. Obviously he was the very, very first villain of the live-action Spider-Man, which was a great choice. It kind of helped. William Dafoe did really well as the Green Goblin. I thought he was really good at it. It did depict some of the old, because he did have kind of like a split personality. So you had the original Norman Osborn as well as the Green Goblin of himself. So I liked how they did that, and they pitted against each other. And then, he never died because his son, Harry Osborn, took up the mantle. So obviously Spider-Man has always had a problem with Green Goblin. In the cartoon version, he did lose Mary Jane while battling Green Goblin, and he is in the comics, I believe he was the responsible of Gwen Stacy's death. So he's more of Batman to his Jokers. Like this is the main rivalry that Spider-Man has. But another one that we have is not only we have the Green Goblin, we also have the Hobgoblin. Unfortunately, I couldn't get that Funko Pop. I mean, this is what it looks like. And it's really expensive because it's a Marvel Corpse, and it's like $90, and I'm just like waiting for it to at least to go down, but it hasn't. But if push comes to shove, I may get it because I have to complete the set. But those two are one in hand. So Hobgoblin, he's actually a moral billionaire fashion designer called Roderick Kingsley. And he was obsessed with Norman Osborn. Once he found out the hideouts with the Green Goblins, he altered the suit and changed it onto his own to become the Hobgoblin. And then from there, he used it for his life of crime. He altered the formula so that way he can have the same strength as him, and just followed in the Green Goblin's footsteps. In the comic book series, you do see a team up with them, so it helped, and the Spider-Man had a very hard time, dealing with them. Because, they had the gliders and they had the pumpkin bombs, so it was really hard with anything because, with Spider-Man, I think his disadvantage was people that had flight because it was hard to reach at him. Some popular Funko Pop is the Green Goblin. I have the Walgreens exclusive. There's also different ones like the metallic and chase ones. But I just got the normal one. I just needed one, which is not too bad. They did have another one for the Spider-Verse, but I did a video on that before, and if you guys recall, it wasn't the pop figure that I imagined, because obviously I guess it's a different universe, so he's different. But yeah, everyone knows this is the classic one, the glider, the pumpkin bombs, and so this is Green Goblin. So we're going to go on to the favorite, I'm pretty sure the fan favorite of the Spider-Man villains, and it's the symbiotes. So without further ado, the first one that we're going to do is Venom. So we all know we watched the movie Venom. It was super good. I enjoyed it. I liked it. Obviously, it did not go the way like Marvel Universe comic did, but it fit pretty well. So instead of talking about the movie, I'm going to talk about the universe of Spider-Man that I grew up with. So like I said, if you know a different version, go ahead and comment below and discuss it. It'd be nice to talk to other people. So I'm going with the Fox Kids one because I always watch that every episode and I've watched it forever. So obviously Venom, we all know who is Eddie Brock, New York reporter, which then ironically his career gets ruined by Spider-Man and Peter Parker. He just didn't know they were one and the same. So he had all this hatred, all this revenge on it, and then ends up stumbling on the symbiote. Not stumble upon. Obviously, we all know the famous black suit Spider-Man had, and then once he took it off himself, the symbiote attached to Eddie Brock, and then the symbiote feeded off Eddie's revenge and hatred, and that's what kept him going, and that's what became Venom. So you can see why they have the insignia of the Spider-Man on his chest, but in the movie he doesn't, because obviously Spider-Man was not in that movie or sequence, so he would have never known. So this is the symbiote Spider-Man. Everything is the same, only that he is a black suit. Well, this one in the version, there's a blue suit, so I grew up with the blue suit. Same powers as Spider-Man, strength, webbing, climb on walls. But with this was the first symbiote that came out, which then spawned other symbiotes to come forward. So, you know, eventually Spider-Man does defeat Venom, excuse me, and takes the symbiote away from him. Eventually the symbiote comes back, but then it spawns other symbiotes, which now we will get into. So we have Carnage from Cletus Cassidy, who suits it, and he's more of a serial killer who has no remorse and just terrorizes everybody. Luckily, Venom does have a conscience. Eddie Brock still is in there, has a conscience, and sometimes actually is allied with Spider-Man. He actually fights with Spider-Man. He doesn't like it, but he ends up doing so. So for it's like stopping other villains, Carnage sometimes, but then there's other universes where they actually, Carnage and Venom, team up, and then that's where Spider-Man has to take care of. Leave that aside. Another one is the Anti-Venom from Box Lunch. I really don't have any information on him because I really haven't like followed up on him, but he's another symbiote. And then another one that we have is Toxin. So yeah, we have all these pops. So these are all the pops that I have for the villains. As you can see here, I hope that they create more villains for them, but that's more of a discussion that I want to do as well. So I figured, what other spider villains do they have that we should hopefully get Funko Pops for? So a couple that I know is one that they do have a pop for that I don't have yet is the Morbius, the vampire. You know, he was named Michael Morbius, but then tries to do the experiments, which then crosses vampire bat DNA, and then ends up turning into a vampire, and that's where the whole Spider-Man comes along. But yeah, so we do have a pop with that one. We do have Electro, which they did a pop figure for the Amazing Spider-Man 2, but that one, as you can see, it's not really like the classic one that we have. So I do hope they make a Funko Pop classic version of Electro, because I would definitely get that one. Other ones are like Sandman. Obviously, we have the pop mini for it, but we don't have an actual pop for that. It would be cool to have Hydro Man. That would be an interesting pop figure for that one. Other ones include like Shocker. So I'm surprised they didn't do Shocker. But if they did, I figured they would have done the one from Homecoming, which I don't think I would like at all. So hopefully they do the classic version that we all know in that suit, as you can see in the picture. One that surprisingly they haven't revealed yet, but I'm pretty sure they will, is Mysterio, because he is in Far From Home, but apparently he's not a villain, as of we know. You know, there could be any twist in the movie, because in the previews it just shows like Mysterio helping Spider-Man, but he's a well-known villain, well-known thief, and I'm hoping they have a pop figure for him, because that'd be awesome to have. And another one that I thought of was Scorpion, another well-known common favorite that fan base knows who he is, and hopefully they get a pop figure for that. So that's my video, just talking about more of the you know, villains of Spider-Man, and hopefully discuss, you know, what's your favorite villain. So let me know, comment in the comments below, like my channel, and as I said, hit that subscribe button. I love doing more of these videos, and you know, let me know your topic discussion and your opinions on the Spider-Man villains. But other than that, I hope you guys have a good weekend, and I'll see you guys later.